Hey weaving peeps, I'm back with a quick bonus Dueling Rabbits Productions video demonstrating one way to cut cloth off the loom mid-warp without having to re-tie on to the cloth beam. It's Amy, by the way. This method saves a lot of time and loom waste. It works great for long damask warps on the draw loom, but is suitable for whenever finer threads are being woven at a reasonably tight set, and tension is even across the width of the warp. Here we are at the end of my blue and pink shawl. I'm eager to get it off the loom, but still have some warp left for the future. First, I weave an inch or so of contrasting fine cotton. I wove this in brown because it's what I had, but I do like to have a light color next to where I'll be working, so I've also woven a few rows of yellow. This is the cut line here. I dabbed some fray check along it because I remembered this time, but sometimes I forget, and it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference to the success of the enterprise. First, I open a shed with about half the threads on top. For this project, I could do that by pressing 3 treadles. Then, I insert an ordinary warping stick. I back off the tension so that it's not too taut, grab my favorite pair of super sharp scissors, thanks Marjorie, and cut carefully along the line. I let the cut warp hang freely while I remove the cloth from the beam. Then I take up my tie-on rod, which has already been marked in the center and on either side, to show me where the chords from the cloth beam will eventually go. Now the value of that yellow cotton becomes clear. I find the center of the warp, which is marked on my beater, right there, and make a note with my Sharpie on the yellow strip. I line up that mark with the center mark on my tie-on bar and use that as a reference for the other 2 marks corresponding with the remaining 2 tie-on chords. Now I'm ready to insert the tie-on rod. I've substituted the loom's belly board for the warping stick because it makes a huge shed. It's easier to see what I'm doing and keeps me from catching errant threads. I pass the tie-on rod through the shed, pausing at each mark to feed a cord through the threads and loop it over the stick. Oops, lost one. There it is. Lillemor Johansson says it's best to pass the cords up from underneath the warp in this way, and I would never dream of questioning her wisdom. Now I can remove the belly board, banging the tripod in the process, and let the warp hang. Tighten up the tension a little bit so that I can see what I'm doing. And it looks pretty good. At this point, I have to check a few things. I want to make sure that the edges of my tie-on bar are within the sides of the loom and tidy up the threads over the cords. Once I release the front ratchet, I can wind the warp back a little to pull the new foul line closer to the beater. I return to the front of the loom, tighten the tension, and am ready to resume weaving.